daughter?
A podcast about my family's secrets, identity, and a kidnapping by my own father. Nice shirt, by the way.
I think so. Great minds think alike.
They do. They do.
So, Jamie, we'll just dive right in. Tell me about the phone call that changed your life.
That phone call. It was definitely life-changing. Yes. It started July 9th, 2024. I received a voicemail from a half brother. So my dad had a child with his ex-girlfriend, and they had never met before.
Ever.
Ever. Never. And we
And,
lived in a tiny town.
and he was how old?
When he called me,
Yeah. How long?
23.
Okay, so he hasn't met him in his whole 23 years of life. Got it.
Correct. And we're from a tiny town, and they still didn't cross paths. So there you go.
Wow.
Whew. Anyway, so his, how do I want to say this? So basically, like, they never met because his mom was trying to protect her son. My dad is not the greatest person. And even to this day, like, he doesn't acknowledge him. He never has. He never will. He'll still even like try and bring it up. Like at my wedding, for instance, he brought it up, it, and nobody's even asking. Like it's not even a topic of conversation. And he's still trying to say that kid's not mine, which is like, hello, clearly it is if you're still trying this hard 23 years later. Anyway, but so after I got his voicemail, he was saying that he wanted to meet dad. And I'm like, I haven't talked to my dad in probably a month at this time because my dad had like hung up on me the last time I talked to him. Yeah. So I called his mom instead and I just kind of told her, oh, hey, he called me. He wants to meet him. I get the curiosity, but I don't think it's really worth it. And she didn't think it was really worth it either. And then we just kind of like left it at that. And she was going to talk to him and just tell him how we both felt, that it's just not worth it. And then after that, she started to get really emotional and she said, there's just so much I want to tell you. And like over the phone is just not the right time.
How do you leave somebody hanging like that, like that? But it's like saying we need to talk, but then not right then. That like so much anxiety, like not on the phone. Well, then are you catching a flight? Because when are we talking about it?
Exactly. And I'm taking this like pretty lightheartedly too. And I'm just kind of like, what do you mean? Like, is my dad not my real dad? Ha ha. And she goes, no, he's your dad.
Emphasis on he.
On he.
I don't
Which
know
then,
where this is going. I don't know if I like it.
well, I had to cut the conversation short. I had a doctor's appointment. And in my head, I was thinking, is she trying to tell me that my mom is not my real mom? And I texted you immediately from the waiting room. And then I'm just like, how do you find a missing baby from Idaho in 1984? At 40 years old, I'm not going to look like any of these baby pictures. How am I going to know it's me?
Yeah. I mean, how can you even wrap your head around it? I couldn't. And you would think, just like, what's the worst thing you were thinking about? Like, trying to figure out what she means. So, might as well just ask her. Like, what's worst case scenario? Just ask her.
Well, I typically take the difficult route. I'd rather investigate myself than just ask the easiest question.
Well, it's not an easy question. And I'm sure it's more or less like, if this is true, why haven't I known about this in 40 years?
Right? Like what are they hiding? And I think that's another reason why I felt, for one, like I couldn't just ask my mom. Like I didn't know where to go with this, and we still don't know if it's true right now, right? Uh so as soon as we left As soon as
Was
I left the doctor's office, I called Dave and I said, I got a serious question to ask you. Is mom my mom? And he goes, as far as I know, just call her and ask her. And I was like, I'm not going to call her and ask her this question. Like, that's weird. Like, how do you even bring that up to somebody that raised you for 40 years? Like, all of a sudden you're like, hey, are you actually my mom all this time? So he said, just call her and ask her. And I said, I'd rather take her hair and send it to a lab and get it tested before I'm going to ask her this question. And of course, like, he kind of kept pushing me to ask to call her, basically. He just kind of kept pushing for me to call her. And I didn't take it seriously. I thought it was just more or less him joking. But really, it was like his way of telling me that, like, you'll get your answer. And quite honestly, it probably would be like a weight lifted off my mom's shoulders. But, at the time, in his mind, it wasn't his place to tell me.
no, that makes sense. That sounds like him. And it's pretty heavy to think about. I'm sure just the whole thought of this line of questioning, it seems so bizarre at the time and probably a little scary to know that there could be a different answer than you've known your whole life.
It's super scary. And of course, the next logical thing I did was I'm going to text my sister because sometimes she knows more than I do. And so I did. And I said, hey, do you know something about me, mom, and dad that I don't know about? And she just started laughing. And she goes, like, what? Like, you're adopted? That's impossible. And I was like, okay. Well, obviously, she doesn't know anything. So I just bit the bullet and I asked the woman.
Ooh, even I was there and I'm nervous. Share what she said.
Well, she called immediately. She was emotional and she said, no, she is not your mom.
That gave me chills. Like, how do you even comprehend that, process that?
Well, I was super busy that day and I don't think I could.
Yeah.
I, it took me all day, I think, to process it. But she started telling me what my dad had told her. And her understanding was I was born in Idaho. My biological mom was 17, and at a few weeks old, she had gotten a bus ticket and I believe she got the money from a church. So a church helped her out. She bought the bus ticket and then took me all the way back to Michigan. And then shortly after, my dad like followed her, showed up, manipulated her, told her, I have a lawyer, you're an unfit mother and he knows that. And if you don't give me this baby, like it's going to get worse for you. And I mean, that's pretty much what happened. According to this woman, she gave me back to my dad and then my dad took off back to Idaho.
Wow, that is heartbreaking to even think about. I know you had texted me during this whole conversation, and I was working, I was busy, and you just texted that you're a kidnapped baby, Natalie. And I was so confused because sometimes you start a story in the middle somewhere and there's no punctuation, talk to text, all that fun stuff. And I read it fast and I'm like, wait, your name was Natalie? Like your original name was Natalie? What a coincidence. Yeah. It was a busy day for everybody. So the last thing I'm thinking is that you're going to say, no, you were actually a kidnapped baby, comma, Natalie. So that, yeah, you being kidnapped was not on my bingo card for that day.
Well, yeah, and I think most people in my life will agree that with you, like I will bring something up from like 10 days ago and I will expect you to follow along and I will expect you to read my mind. She had told me that my ex stepmom had found my birth mom on Facebook like years back, probably like 2005, 2007 time. And then she proceeded to tell me that she passed away in 2019.
Wow. So that was almost 5 years ago. Well, almost 6 years ago now, but 5 years ago when you found out. And the option of meeting her was immediately taken off the table.
I don't know if that really sunk in right away.
Sure.
Definitely later throughout this past year, it's come up where I'm like angry at my dad or angry at people who knew and that do love me but didn't have the guts to tell me. I definitely think that part of my life is stolen and that's really unfair. She went on to tell me how she was unsure how she died. It could have been like a heart problem because I have a brother. Hello, hello. And he apparently posted some sort of like, I don't know, maybe an American Heart Association type of fundraiser or something. So, also, on top of that, I have a sister, and she went on to tell me that she thinks I still have a grandma that's still alive. And then she sent me the link to her Facebook and I believe his Facebook. And then she sent me the link to one of my dad's sisters who I didn't know anything about. My entire life, my dad told me he had one sister and his parents were alcoholics and we never saw his parents. And every once in a while, we got to see my aunt. But that like came with like restrictions. Like sometimes we couldn't see her and there was no explanation for it. It didn't really make sense. And then come to find out he's like the middle child of 7 kids.
7, and you only knew about one of them. Wow.
Correct.
So you went from thinking you had a teeny tiny extended family now to learning you have a huge biological family on both
Yeah, it's
sides.
wild. It doesn't make sense.
No.
It's wild. I mean, I don't even know. And and then next, like the jaw dropper is we see her picture and I was looking at myself.
Yeah. It was definitely like a mirror image, like you, but with one of those like age filters on. It was exactly the same, like identical. Like I put side by side together. Your lips were pursed the same way. You were posed the same way. Your nose. Honestly, it was everything was identical. It was very uncanny.
And I have this line like between my eyes or eyebrows. Obviously, I use Botox now, so it's not there. But as soon as I saw that line, I was like, oh, yeah, this woman is definitely my mom. I'm definitely her offspring. And my entire life, I didn't look like anybody in the family. I have auburn hair. I have bearish skin. I have freckles. So I was definitely floored to like actually look like somebody, like spitting image.
Yeah, because most of the family you grew up with had blonde hair. So, I mean, I know your hair is blonde right now, but from birth. So, you guys all looked similar enough that it wasn't like, oh, she's totally out of place. But after seeing that picture, and we looked up a few Tracy Titus's, and a few people came up, but once you sent the link to her specific profile page, it was undeniable. Undeniable.
And then, of course, the rest of the day was just a deep dive on the internet. You know, when I finally had a moment in the car, I started thinking, like, shit, my brothers aren't my real brothers. And that was like really heartbreaking to think because I really love them, obviously. And then it goes to, well, then my sister's just my half sister. And like, I'm just in this family now because of my sister, because it's my sister's family. You know, like all those things just start like coming up. And I think I'm just going to say this now. I think that also was another reason why I didn't want to reach out to my mom because I was afraid that, well, once the cat's out of the bag, she doesn't need to be my mom anymore. Her job here is done. That was a scary thought that crossed my mind too.
Yeah, I'm sure the swirl was intense. Like your brain just goes from corner to corner thinking any and everything because you don't know anything for sure and your whole reality has just been blown apart. But Obviously, that's not the case. Your mom, your siblings, they love you like their own. Reality and the thoughts going through your head when you're spiraling don't always add up, but I know and you know that the love is all the same.
I think the best thing that my dad did was meet my mom. I mean, she was obviously the saving grace for this. You know, what the hell was I doing before he met her, before she met me? I now know that she met me when I was about 4 months old. She was told that my birth mom was a drug addict and was too young and wanted nothing to do with me. She didn't want to be a mom. And so, of course, my mom has a heart of gold and she's like, well, I'll take care of this baby, you know, like
And
I'll show her love.
how old was she at that time?
She was 18.
So we're talking 17, 18. I don't remember, I don't know what you were doing at 17 or 18, but I don't know that I could have handled this kind of information at that time.
Yeah, I don't think I could have taken a child on at 18 years old. I don't know. The 80s were a different time, obviously, right? Before meeting her, who was taking care of me? Who was holding me? Who was changing my diapers? Was I just rolling around in the back seat of a car and my dad fleeing state to state for 2 months before we landed in my mom's lap somehow? You know, they met at a car lot, like he was selling her a car. So random.
Maybe you were the baby in the back seat.
I was the baby in the back seat. Did I have a car seat? I don't know. Again, did I have a diaper bag?
Seatbelts were iffy in the 80s. You didn't really need them.
And I think all of that also kind of like definitely gives me insight of the person I've become because I'm not really good with affection. I'm not really good with emotions. When people tell me that they love me, I like tense up. And I'm not really good at telling people I love them even. I just freeze. And I think it's because I had to take care of myself growing up. You know, when I was sad, I comforted myself. I spent a lot of time isolated in my room because that's the way my dad had it. That's the way it was.
Yeah. So at this point, you know that you're taken at around 2 months old. Your mom got you when you're about 4 months old, and now started the deep dive, the internet detective work to find out more information about your birth mom and your brothers and sisters and the family that you're discovering that you had. And all we know is the online presence that we see. Um, and couldn't tell too much, but let's talk a little bit about what we did find.
Well, eventually, we did find that she did have a stint with drug use and she was arrested for it. She had married someone that got her involved, got her into it. But like we can't confuse that with being a 17-year-old girl who's probably not doing drugs or maybe experimenting with weed or alcohol compared to being a full-grown adult, being able to make your choices, knowing the difference between right and wrong, and continuing that path and getting addicted. Like initially, I thought we had very different lifestyles and like social, I say this word wrong all the time, socioeconomically. I think we were different. My dad didn't drink, he didn't do drugs. He wouldn't even watch Breaking Bad because it was about drugs and it's such a great show.
That's a
His
great show.
fault. um, he just didn't tolerate that sort of stuff. So to hear that he's telling people she was a drug addict, I can't even picture him getting involved with a drug addict to begin with, right? So there was that. And then eventually, I think, well, we started to see the brother. We found the brother and the sister, and I think the brother went down kind of a rough path, you know, but eventually he turned his life around. You know, he has two kids, and then I have this sister, and then she also went down a bit of a rough path, right? And she had a baby very young. And to be honest, like seeing that kind of stuff, I'm just thinking that is not how I would have chose to live my life. And I didn't. And I followed the rules. I wasn't going to do anything that got me arrested. I wasn't going to try drugs. I can't say that I was nerdy, but like I just definitely wasn't going to choose the path. Like I had dreams. I was going to get out of that freaking town that I lived in, and nothing was going to stop me from getting out of there. And, he's totally turned his life around. He has 2 kids now. And, the sister, she's a hard worker today. And I just think when I looked at what I saw online and what I thought might be the case, I was never interested in hanging out with people that did drugs or did illegal things where they're going to get arrested and go to jail. Like, I just found that kind of icky. And I didn't put myself in that place either because I had dreams. I was getting the heck out of that teeny tiny ass town. I was on to bigger and better things, and I wasn't going to let anything stop me. So to see that, like, my life could have been different, possibly, is kind of scary. Nobody wants to think that that they come from a family where there's a drug addict or someone's in jail. Like, I just didn't grow up that way. That was not my lifestyle. And it wasn't my lifestyle with my dad, and it wasn't my lifestyle with my mom and my stepdad, But after thinking about it now, like months later, and knowing what I know now, actually our lives might be kind of similar. My dad definitely dabbled in criminal activity, and, there's all these secrets. And if not worse, like, the only difference is he just didn't get caught. Like, he could easily be in jail, but he didn't get caught. And honestly, at the same time, like, while I thought like I might be embarrassed by what I might have come from, at the same time, growing up, I was embarrassed by my dad. For sure. Like, I didn't really want him coming to school functions. I mean, I was used to doing things on my own anyway. But we can also see that their love for their mom was completely different. They're like showing it online all the time. I never posted pictures of my dad. I didn't even put my last name online. Like, so maybe there's similarities. It's just on a different scale.
Yeah, they definitely seemed really close to their mom, just from what we saw. But again, we're putting the pieces together from very little information we have online and just whatever has been presented, what we can see. There's a lot, but it also doesn't always paint the full picture. So, you know, it's kind of crazy, but the questions then come from like, did they even know about you? Have they known about you? Would it be a shock if you reached out? Or would you be dropping a bomb on them as well? Are they going to be thrilled to know you're alive? Or are they going to be like, who the heck are you? Who even knows?
I didn't know who I was potentially dealing with. Like, they could know about me or they could not know about me. And they could want to welcome me with open arms or have the mentality I do, which is, what the hell? Like, still in shock. I look at my mom and I can see that, like, she's my birth mom, 100%. And then I look at them and I don't really see a resemblance. So it's kind of hard to find a connection there. But then I see my aunt, because we had that Facebook link as well, my dad's sister, and I see like she looks just like my dad. And so I feel like this sense of safety with wanting to reach out to my dad's side first, because I feel like if anything, they're going to know for sure.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
I was on my aunt's Facebook and I'm looking at my cousins and I'm deciding, okay, who am I going to reach out first to? And you kind of want to pick someone that's like in your age range, right? Because there's a reason. Like, I didn't know about this woman, my aunt. She never tried to reach out to us, and my dad never talked about her. So what's the reason there? What's the issue there? I decide, okay, this cousin looks welcoming. Like, I think I can reach out to her. And meanwhile, I'm in Michigan. Okay. We are with Kevin's family. 3 days later, after finding out I'm going on a family trip with his extended family, and I'm not getting any sleep. I'm just scrolling the internet all night long, all day long. So I finally reached out to this cousin, and then I just kind of wait. And then meanwhile, we're just looking into her past relationships, relatives, friends, and family on the internet.
Honestly, it kind of puts in perspective what people put out there and how you're perceived based on what you have out there. Because with zero information, people are making judgments about you, not necessarily bad, but like you said, she looked welcoming. Like, that's great. But it's so funny because I don't think a lot of people think somebody's going to think this about me per se if I post this or this or this. So just all in all is an interesting thought. But also begs the question still, why do you think you couldn't reach out to your mom or dad? The ones who have the answers.
Well, my dad, because he would lie to me. I mean, he's lied this long,
Yeah.
you know. I think I just wanted to find out as much truth as I could on my own and then go to him so that if he did try to lie, I knew instantly, right? And then again, goes back to reaching out to my mom. I don't know how to say it to this poor woman. I know deep down she's definitely a victim in this situation. And I didn't want to lose her as a mom. I didn't want her to abandon me. I didn't want her again to think that her job was done. Like I still needed her. I needed her then, as much as I needed her in my previous life before this, in my life after. I think at this point too, I was like still trying to wrap my head around all this. And, I had the aunt that I grew up with that I knew about. And to be honest, she was the last person I was going to be reaching out to as well. And I'm sure she knows so much. Oh, I know for a fact she knows so much. I'm pretty sure she's involved. But her and my dad still talk. They're still really close. So I said, yep, got to stay clear of that one. So I think it was like my best bet to reach out to a stranger in the family
Just
because
to
I
get
think
a
I was going to get the
clean,
most honest answers.
yeah, clean objective.
And the first day, like, I couldn't even talk to my sister about it. She had just rekindled her relationship with my dad after 15 years, and I didn't want to bring that down. I didn't want to get blamed for that by him because I do feel like he holds a lot of resentment towards me, just in general, which probably stems from this whole situation anyway. I don't think honestly, to this day, I still wonder, like, did my dad even like me? Like, I've asked myself that. Did he love me? I don't know. Was I just a burden? Because that's often how I feel looking back, considering how he treated me at times. Just fast forward to the end of the night. I'm just waiting for my husband to come home. Like, I take a shower, I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm just starting to cry again because I feel so disgusted. And I just look like this person I'm never going to meet. And why? I just keep asking myself, why me? Like, why can't my mom just be my mom? Why does she get to be Whitney's mom? Like, it, could this have happened to anyone else but me? I don't know. And then when Kevin came home, I told him, and I mean, he was just as shocked as I was. And, he just said, I have zero respect for your dad.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even process that kind of information? I would just be thinking of all the different times, all the different conversations, and just like, how is this real? And I'm sure when you saw your reflection, all you could see was her. You guys looked so similar. So after seeing the pictures, the side by side,
It was definitely on my mind every day for the next 8 months after this. There was a time in therapy this past year, I think maybe in the spring, where I walked in and I was like, I think I'm coming to terms. Like, it's just not really on my plate as much as it was when I first met my therapist. And I think she was really happy to see that. Like, it's settled in. And
there
I don't
was
know.
so much unknown at the beginning that how
Mhm.
could you even begin to accept it or know what was real, what wasn't real? Because it's like you need proof. Like anything, anybody could say anything, and somewhere in the back of your mind, there's always that thought of, "Is this true? Like, how do we know?" And not that I'm saying people weren't we're steering you in the wrong direction, but it's just like something that is so major you can't fathom. Is this really true?
I was a dental hygienist for 15 years. And so eventually I started to like talk about it with my patients and I also teach Pilates. So my clients, I brought it up one time. I felt like I needed to get that off my chest, right? And I actually got like a really good response. I wasn't alone.
It's more widespread than just
Yeah,
you.
widespread, more widespread than I imagined. I forgot to mention this earlier when I was talking about Michigan and being with his family. It was like 3 days after I found out. And besides talking to my friends, I'm just like spiraling in my head. And I just start asking his uncle, because they're like born and raised Detroit, what Battle Creek and Kalamazoo is like. And he's like, oh, I got a buddy that lives there, Kellogg's, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what's the interest, And I said, well, I think I just found out I've got some family that lives there. Then I just kind of looked around and his son was sitting next to him and no one was on either side of us. And I just said, I'm going to tell you something. I just found out on Tuesday. Apparently, my mom is not my real mom, and they're from Battle Creek. And I have a brother and a sister there. And he looks at me and he goes, are you serious? He goes, what the hell are you doing here? Why aren't you in Battle Creek? like, and then, he's met my family because our wedding wasn't that long ago. So he's familiar with all those faces. And he's just like, what the hell? And I proceed to tell him the story. And then Kevin walks up and Kevin's like, am I hearing what I think I'm hearing? Is she telling my uncle about this? And honestly, like, I feel close to that side of his family. They've always been very welcoming to me. I enjoy conversations with them. I still keep in touch with them outside of visiting them. Like, I just feel this connection with them. So I felt really safe to tell him, but also like I needed to tell an adult. And I know I'm an adult,
At
but
40 years, we need to tell the adults.
I needed to tell somebody that could make me feel safe and secure and that like everything would be okay.
Yeah. Talking about it is definitely helps process. Just even saying the words out loud and sharing your story with strangers, I can imagine sometimes is easier than people you know because they don't know you or anything about anybody else. And it almost feels like the anonymity almost feels empowering and safe. And then even if I've shared with somebody like my friend found out this crazy information that her mom wasn't her mom, and people are like, "Oh, my aunt found out that her dad wasn't her real dad." Like it is so much more common. I don't want to say common like happens every day, but it sounds like a lot of people have similar stories, or at least along that path, which I think helps not people not feel alone to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. And common was the word I was looking for earlier, by the way.
I know I said widespread. I was like, that wasn't even it either. Common. That's the one. So wait. Um, did your cousin ever respond? The one you reached out to on Facebook?
Okay, so I gave that a couple days and then I pushed myself to write to my aunt, her mom. I know I say aunt and aunt. I don't know. Whatever comes out, it comes out. Take it or leave it. But so I reached out to her because I thought, well, what if my cousin doesn't use Facebook? I barely use Facebook. To be honest, I didn't even have Facebook. I had to reinstate it when this happened. I reached out to her, and then I think they both realized, like, oh, we both got the same message, and they happened to be together. They were on a trip together. And so then think she kind of prompted my cousin to respond because she got the same message. And of course, I felt like I had to like prove myself, like I am who I say I am. And I think also they just understood that I was looking to meet my family, but also like looking for these answers. I wanted the truth. And
Could
I
you
happened to
imagine?
be
Could you imagine
what?
like I said, could you imagine like sitting next to your family member or a friend and like, did you get this message? I got this message. Did you get this message? Is this real? Could this be? Who is this? Like, I think everything on Facebook is a scam anyways, so I would be questioning the crap out of it.
Speaking of, I think she did because, like I said, I never use my last name. I like to fly under the radar. I had like my nickname on there. So it was Jamie Jinglebutt. And I think she was kind of like, who the heck is this? I'm not going to respond to this weirdo, But that was my nickname and that was what I used forever. I think I
Yeah.
still use it at times. But yeah, I think my aunt was like, okay, respond. Let's see where this goes. But I was sitting in North Carolina. I was there for my friend's memorial. I was at my grandpa's cabin. My grandpa was there. My stepdad was there. It was like, I think it was a great bonding session for all of us.
Trauma
But like,
bonding.
hey. But anyway, so, my aunt finally, after going back and forth a little bit, my aunt basically said, like, can I call you? I said, yeah, absolutely. The other great thing about being there with my stepdad is because he actually did know. And so when I initially called him and he said, well, as far as I know, and kind of tried to send me in my mom's direction, he didn't think it was his place to tell me. And he knew one day this is going to come up. And my grandpa knew because obviously, like, my mom married into the family. I think at one point, my stepdad and my grandparents were on my mom's side saying, well, you need to try and get custody of Whitney, my sister. And I think one of the smartest things my mom did was say, no, I can't do that because if I do, I'll never see Jamie again. And who knows where the hell I would be if she didn't have the guts and like the courage to say that. But it felt really good to be able to talk openly about this. Anyway, so yeah, my aunt, she just asked if she could call me. And of course I said, yes, please call me. And hearing her voice was calming. It kind of sounded like my other aunt who I refused to call. And the fact that she looks like my dad, it like gave me a sense of peace. It gave me connection, the connection like that I was hoping for with all of this. And I think it just led to where have you been? Where has John's daughter been all these years? I've been all over the US, I'll put it that way. And she
So she
said,
knew about you.
she did know about me. So she was definitely the right one to reach out to. And she said, I want to let you know, like, I have thought about you for 40 years. And then I asked her, did they ever try and find me? And she said, yes, they did.
I literally every time I hear that, I get chills, like actual chills. I have goosebumps right now. Because that's just wild to know, to think maybe nobody wanted me. And then to find out, no, you were looked for. People were looking for you and thought about you for all these years. I think your dad was trying really hard to not let anybody find you.
They never would have found me because he changed my name illegally, our names illegally.
And the plot thickens. Well, we'll talk more about that next time. So until then, cheers.